Welcome to TOD, the House of Favor.
Let us pray. Father, Lord, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart, O Lord, be acceptable in thy sight, my Lord and my Redeemer. For I pray with thanksgiving in Jesus' mighty name. I welcome all of you in the name of our Lord and precious Savior, Jesus Christ. And I pray that the word that he has for each one of you, the Rhema, that you will receive it to benefit and profit you and your families in the mighty name of Jesus. I've been asked to speak on thriving in difficult times. Thriving in difficult times. What does it mean to thrive? To thrive means to grow vigorously, to flourish, to gain wealth or possession, to prosper. That is what it means to thrive. Synonyms are words like to bloom, to advance, to succeed. Well, I'm sure we all know what it means when we talk of difficult times. Difficult times are tough times, to experience a tough time. So basically what we are looking at this morning is how can we prosper or how can we flourish in difficult and tough times. Maybe the question is, how can we succeed in a very difficult period? If you ask civil servants in Nigeria, in many states, they will tell you things are tough. In some states, actually, they go to church on Sundays to go and collect welfare to feed their families because salaries have not been paid for 6 months. Even when they pay the salaries, it doesn't take them home. Now they have not even paid at all. And there are school fees to be paid, house rent to be paid, things to be taken care of daily. They will tell you things are tough. If you talk to breadwinners who used to work in banks, and banks have laid off a lot of people, and it's likely some banks are still going to lay off more people. From their plump bank jobs, or people that used to work in oil and gas. People will say, well, if you really want to do well in Nigeria, there are 3 areas to go to. Banking, telecoms, oil and gas. The average graduate, if you ask for their list, that is the top 3. For some of those who are wise now, are probably avoiding those 3 now. Oil and gas, they are laying off people. Those who are consultants, go and talk to them about consulting. It's only when things are going on well that people want to consult. Unfortunately, they should consult more when things are not going well. So they cut down on those areas. So those in the consulting areas are having challenging times because training budget has been cut down. People are looking at where to save costs. Talk to investors in the stock market who have lost millions. Some have lost billions. They will tell you these are tough times. Maybe you are like me, who knew that some of these people in stock market, some of the shares they are selling were not worth much. So I didn't put too much money in stock market. He said that it was better to put money in property. Well, property developers borrowed a lot of money from the banks to put up properties that we think we'll be able to sell. How many people are buying houses now? Also, if you were in the upper end of the market, with EFCC looking at the people who are buying, where they made their money from. Many developments are not completed. People have run out of money. And the ones that you completed, there are no tenants. So you are paying interest to the banks, That's even they are even able to afford to pay the interest. What about manufacturers who thought they were doing good business because they had business partners overseas who offered them credit? And they took the credit, brought in raw materials, and produced goods and sold. For them to collect the money to send back to those that helped them, only to find out that at the time they got the raw materials, dollar was 1 to 200. At the time they are paying back money to those that helped them, it is 1 to 400. And even the dollars, they couldn't even see to buy. You can't make money again because they have sold the product. So they are just transferring money and their capital has been eroded. So what was an advantage at the time became a huge disadvantage. Borrowing costs. If the banks love you, you get money at 25%. They don't love you, you are paying 30 to 35% per annum. And people will tell you that you are even lucky because people are borrowing money at 10% per annum. I don't know what they are doing. 10% flat. They go and borrow money to do business, and they say you pay 10% flat for 6 months. So you don't have to go very far to ask people whether they are going through tough times or not, because the evidences are all around us. If you watch CNN, at the time you see Syrians in their thousands who are doing exodus to Europe because things are tough where they were. They have sold everything. You will see millionaires. They used to be millionaires before in Syria. But now all they had to carry was a mattress, maybe because the wife and 2 children are tagging along with them so they can sleep at night. In 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 24 to verse 31, 2 6, verse 24 to verse 31, was the story of another set of Syrians. This case, they were the one that besieged Israel. The place was walled. Samaria was walled. So the Syrians said, we are going to stay here, and when you come out, we will finish you. So those inside refused to come out. At a time, food ran out. If food runs out in a place, then there'll be hyperinflation, because what is left, people will pay anything to survive. It got so difficult. Some people didn't have money. So they said to themselves, what can we do to help ourselves? And the one woman said to the other, we have children now. Let us begin to eat them. It's not different from what people do when they say they have donated their children. This one actually killed them physically, boiled them to eat them. Those were difficult times. And by the way, in Nigeria today, every 2 or 3 months, there are stories of people that they had found who are killing human beings, trying to make money because they think that is the solution to their problem. People are being kidnapped, so they can cut their hands. They can remove their vital organs to go and make sacrifices to a God that they believe will give them money to survive difficult times. Kidnappings. These are all signs of the times. Things are so difficult that even husbands who were respectable before, who will not touch company's money, are dipping their hands to company finances. The respectable housewife is now yielding to pressure because he wants to be able to afford to pay school fees and save the family from shame. Husbands ignore their wives who now come home late. Very late, much later than before. And who is always going for out-of-state dinners because he's the one that is putting food on the table. You'll be shocked what people will do if they are sure that what they are doing, people will not know about it, or those who are going to know about it will be very few. That even the most respectable among us are doing things they will not do. But hard times, they come in cycles. It's not the first time. Genesis chapter 12, verse 10 to verse 17. Bible tells us of a particular period that was a hard time. So Abraham and his wife had to relocate. Economic migrants. These are migrants. They went to Egypt because things were tough where they were. Abraham had a beautiful wife called Sarah. And he knew that where they were going, those people, they love to party and they love fine women. So he told the wife, when they ask you, just tell them that you're my sister so you can be good for us. Which means, let us leave. Whatever the people are going to do, just cooperate with them. At least, let the family survive. You'll be shocked how many men are telling their wives to go and look for contracts. Say, why don't you go and do what Victoria did? They have an idea of what Victoria did. And they are saying, if you are going to go and get those contracts, don't dress anyhow. Dress like they dress nowadays. Which means make yourself attractive. When you are telling your wife to dress in such a way that she'll be attractive for purchasing managers, what are you telling her? No matter what you do, just come back home with the contract. It's a code. Husband and wife understand. That is the world we are in today. But then we also read in Genesis 26 verse 1. Bible said there was famine in the land. Like I told you, these periods of famines, they come in cycles. Abraham had famine. People will tell you, it was because this world now we overpopulated. How many people were living in the world at the time Abraham had famine? And then how many more years before Isaac, his son, also had famine? So there was famine, Bible said, just like it were in the days of Abraham. And of course, our children are watching us. It's not what you preach, it's what you do. So as soon as Isaac saw there was a famine, he remembered, when there was famine, my daddy relocated. So he told the wife also, things are tough, let us relocate. Exactly what his father did was what Isaac did. And he was going down. And by the way, Abraham had a fine wife. The son has learned for the father too. This wife of the son too was very beautiful. The same thing that happened. The son told the wife, don't worry. When they ask you, tell them you are my sister. Just like the father. You'll be surprised how many things your children have picked up from you. Even though you are telling them, don't do what I do. Do what I say. Exactly. He also took off and told the wife to lie. Like father, like son. But his own was a bit different. On the way, God met him. And God said to him, the economic model has changed. When your father had a problem, he had to travel down to Egypt. Say, you don't travel to Egypt. You stay here, and I will bless you. Many of you will say, because things are tough, maybe we need economic experts to advise us. Where do I put my money? Which stocks do I buy? Some of you are economists and business people. One of my favorite business magazines is one titled Money Week. Money Week is Britain's best-selling financial magazine. The editor-in-chief of that magazine, in their editorial of 9th May 2014, issue number 690, spoke about what they call a new kind of normal. A new kind of normal. She said, this is a new kind of normal. It is one which most markets remain artificially boosted by quantitative easing. Some of you understand what I'm talking about, like in the US. expectations of quantitative easing, like in Europe, or just super low interest rates almost everywhere else. She said it is one in which savers are expected to get consistently poorer, while debtors are helped to get a little richer. One in which rates can't rise because mortgage households can't cope, and one in which much of the rise in employment is accounted for by self-employment and 0 hours contracts. It is one in which most public sector debts are still at historic heights, and one in which, despite all this, there is little appetite for real falls in government spending. She said it is also one in which a new debate on inequality, one that could fundamentally change the political environment, is fast taking hold. Basically, she was saying that the world we live has changed. They are keeping interest rates very low. In some countries in Europe, interest is actually negative. The banks will actually charge you if you bring cash to put in the bank. So government can borrow at close to nothing. So the interest government pays is close to nothing. Now, those who are pensioners, who had put money in deposit, hoping to live on the interest on that deposit, what are you going to get if you are already retired and they are paying 0.5%? So they are getting poorer. Those who are taking high risk, those who have already borrowed money, are being subsidized by the system. And they are printing currencies. When they say quantitative easing, it is close to just printing currency. Was that not what Idi Amin did and they called him stupid? Is that not what Mugabe is doing in Zimbabwe and said the man is foolish? But they are printing money. And they are wanting people to come and take money at lower interest rates. There's a new bestseller in France by a French economist called Thomas Piketty. The book is titled Capital in the 21st Century. And he argued that the fact that returns to capital are higher than the rise in GDP. In most countries, wealth inequality is high and rising, and so must be countered with wealth taxes and super high income taxes. Most policymakers and politicians in the West agree with him. What this guy is also saying is that in spite of all of these things, the rich are getting richer. They are very few, but they are getting very rich. The wealth of the world is controlled by a few people. He says their family wealth is going at a higher rate than GDP. They are making more money than the country. So he says, look, the only way we can solve this problem, let us tax the super rich more. Let us tax people who are looking at him. But then you begin to hear in America and the others, they want to reduce taxes for the rich. So those who should be paying for some of these things we are talking about, you really want to reduce what they are paying. Now, some of the things I have said in the last 5 minutes, for some of you don't make any sense. It's economics. But basically, summary is that the world has changed. The tools that banks and central banks used to work are not working like before. So even the experts are missing it. How many of you have heard of a company called Long-Term Capital Management? Only a few of you have heard of that company. But this company was launched in 1993. And it was hailed as the most impressive hedge fund in history. Why? This company was led by two Nobel Prize winning economists, a former central banker and renowned Wall Street traders. Now, Nobel Prize, many of us know of Nobel Prize for peace. But they have Nobel Prize in medicine. They have in economics. This company, people that set it up, 2 of them were Nobel Prize winners in economics. One of them, former central banker, and then some renowned Wall Street traders. They came together and formed a company. When the company was formed, they called that company a AAA company, which means you cannot have it better. These are the guys that wrote our textbooks, the ones that we read. Then 2 of them came together. A central banker from one of the Western countries and renowned Wall Street people. This company was a AAA plus company. After 4 years in business, this company dazzled Wall Street. It became a company it became $100 billion money-making juggernaut. Why would it be? Look at the people that formed the company. But then, it suddenly suffered catastrophic losses that not only caused the fall of the company, but jeopardized not only the biggest banks on Wall Street, but the stability of the financial system itself. If a company, formed by Nobel Prize winners in economics can fail, I don't know where you want to go. I don't know how much money. If you wanted to go to them when they were in business for advice, I'm not sure there's anybody in this room who could pay their consulting fee. And this company failed. There's a popular book written by Roger Lowenstein. It was titled When Genius Failed: The Rise and Fall of Long-Term Capital Management. What I'm telling you is that we're in a world where Nobel Prize winners are doing what? They are failing. And some of us, our models, like for instance, they gave my CV, Pastor Pitan has done this, is this one, a bank of it. You just say, come to and tell us when you come and rise. Just tell us where to put our money. And let us leave this place. All this one that you are saying, Pastor, it's too long. All I want to know, Pastor, 2, 3 places where to put my money. And now I'm telling you, there are people that I'm looking up to. They are failing. And you're asking me for advice. In 1923, some of you, I'm sure, have read the story before. There was a meeting of the group of the world's most successful financiers. They met at Edgewater Beach Hotel in Chicago. Collectively, these men, they controlled more wealth than there was in the U.S. Treasury. These were men that had more money than U.S. government. And they were having a meeting in the hotel. For years, newspapers and magazines had been printing their success stories and urging the youths to follow their examples. But then, interestingly, you know how God can just, somebody saw their pictures and said, these were the men they were telling us to follow. 27 years later, that person said, let me do research on these men to find out how they have done. When they were there, people were writing about them. But he said, let me see how they have ended up. So 27 years later, somebody did research to find out where these men were. One of the men at that meeting in the hotel was a man called Charles Schwab. He was the president then of the largest independent steel company. 27 years later, he was living on borrowed money, and he died penniless. Another man in that photograph was a man called Arthur Cothing. He was the greatest wheat speculator at that time, when they had more money than the U.S. government. He died abroad, insolvent, later. Another man on that list was a man called Richard Whitney. At the time they took the photographs, 27 years ago, he was the president of the New York Stock Exchange. When they did research years later, they have just released the man from prison to go and die at home. Number 4, another man on the list was a man called Albert Fall. He was a member of the president's cabinet 27 years before. Later, he has just been pardoned from prison to also to go and die at home. Another man on that list, Jesse Livermore. 27 years before, he was the greatest bear in Wall Street. 27 years later, the man was gone. He had committed suicide. Other man on the list, Leon Fraser. 27 years before, president of the Bank of International Settlement. When they checked his story, 27 years later, he was gone. He had committed suicide. Another man on the list, Ivan Fraser. 27 years before, he was the head of the world's greatest monopoly. When the guy checked 27 years later, he was gone. He also committed suicide. Another man on the list, Insull Samuel. 27 years before, he was the president of America's greatest utility company. When they checked 27 years later, he died penniless in a foreign land, a fugitive running from justice. Another man on that list, Howard Hobson. He was then, 27 years before, president of the largest gas company. When they checked 27 years later, he had gone totally insane. What a record. So who are your own role models? Who are you looking at today? The people that they publish their stories in the papers with 3 pages of CV. Don't say a man is successful. It's the end that determines whether a man has made it or not. All these men were yesterday's men. They were gone. So what happened to Isaac? Bible said, Genesis 26 verse 12. Then Isaac sowed in the land and received in the same year 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him. Interesting. In a time things were tough, God picked Isaac and blessed him. In verse 13, Genesis 26, Bible said, and the man waxed great and went forward and grew until he became very great. Now, this is the area you must pay the most attention. What can we learn from Isaac? Because we are asking for the secret on how to make it. At times, things are tough. Number 1, in the case of Isaac, God intervened. God intervened. It was not Isaac's wisdom that made him to succeed. The training Isaac had was what his father taught him. When things are tough, relocate. Isaac also was following the principle and the theory his father taught him. He was relocating to Egypt, but God met him on the way. And God said to him, the rules have changed. Isaac, don't go to Egypt like your father. You stay here in Gerar, and I will bless you. God intervened. If God does not intervene in your matter, at times like this, you can't make it. You can't make it. The other thing you need to find out about the story of Isaac was Genesis 26 verse 3. God said to Isaac, you stay here and I will bless you. And God told him why. God said, because between me and your father there was a covenant. And that covenant, I'm going to execute that covenant. That means between Isaac and God, there was a relationship. If you are going to make it at a time like this, between you and God, there must be a relationship. You can't make it on your own. That was why it took time. Oh, yes, I'm MD of a bank. I understand economics. That's why I told you economics. And I told you people that even know more than I know. They set up companies, and it failed spectacularly. They lost over $100 billion. Not only that, they lost their own money and lost the money of many banks. The world financial system at that time, if not that God intervened, could have crashed because of them. Because people believed so much in them, they gave them so much money. They were leveraged and did so many things. They lost the money. They lost the money. Many of those men were not godly men. They would think that they can make it by virtue of their intellectual, faculties. Not knowing that a man can receive nothing except it be given him from above. You can't. You can't. So when you talk of Isaac, people just say, and Isaac made it. No, you are not telling them the full story. God told Isaac why he blessed him. God told Isaac why he intervened. He said, because between me and your father, there is something Abraham had done. He had paid the price. And God said, I'm a faithful God. If I promised your father and you have kept on in that line, I will bless you also. So this time around, you must be close to God. Number 3, God spoke. God gave specific instructions what this guy should do. Isaiah chapter 30, verse 21. Bible says, and thine ears shall hear a word behind thee, saying, this is the way, walk ye in it, when ye turn to the right hand and when you turn to the left. You need to hear God at these times. Clearly, specifically, you don't move until God has spoken to you and he has told you what to do. And sometimes what God will tell you will not make sense. But these are not usual times. God spoke. And then he had supernatural abundance. Some of you are saying, do you mean all I came here to hear from Pastor Kayode is that I should wait for God to speak? That the only reason why Isaac made it in time of famine was because of relationship with God? Yes. Now, if you want me to tell you the other one, which is more interesting for some of you, let me tell you, some of you don't know what I do. Before government appointed me to become MD of Bank of Industry, I left bank industry on my own, decided to do my own business, and just to serve God. Property, different kinds of things. Like I told you, I had reasoned that most of these banks, I didn't believe what they were saying, all these profits. Because I was a former bank MD myself. So I said I won't put money in some of these banks. In fact, we used to joke in the house. My wife would go and buy some of those shares. She would tell me, my share price has gone up this. I will laugh. I said, well, don't call me when anything happens. So. Because I said to her one day, I said, look, there are two things. Either the people working in those banks are the smartest Nigerians, or they are fake and fraud. I said, I don't know what they are doing. So because I don't know what they are doing, I will be out of it. So I didn't put money in stock market. And then a time came when I thought it was time to put money in stock market. I did my analysis. I said, these banks, it's fake. I said, but telecoms, you can't go wrong in telecoms. I said, GSM, all these MTN people, they are making money. But I said, look, it's better if you go and invest in people like Starcoms and the other ones. Technology was different. It was cheaper. So I reckoned that was a sure way of making money. So I put money in Starcoms. The rest is history. After doing my analysis, I lost a lot of money in Starcoms. In fact, if you want to sell your shares in Starcoms today, who is going to buy? It's virtually worthless. So I thought I left the area that didn't make any sense, used my intellect to invest money in the area I thought would make money, and I lost all the money. Now, let us leave the shares alone. Thank God that was the major where I put money. Then I said, look, property was it. He said they don't call it real estate for nothing. Real, you can see it. It's real estate. It's not paper. So My business model, I specialized on the high end of the market. Ikoyi, Parkview, Manana Island. That was my area. So another opportunity came to buy property in Ikoyi, one part of Ikoyi. I took the one I had, borrowed money, and bought. The idea was to, wait, let the market go up, and resell. One day, I think I went to my eye doctor or something like that. I got a telephone call from a senior friend, older than me, He knew that I had interest in a particular area. He said, Kayode, where are you? So I told him. He said, there's a problem. Said, problem? What problem, sir? Said, have you gone to check the area where you invested recently? I said, no. Said, there's a court judgment too. I said, court judgment? For what? He said, somebody took, and I did my homework. I didn't buy property from any just small company. I won't mention their names. I bought from one of the biggest property developers in Nigeria. Very reputable. The place had C of O, had everything. So that was why the bank gave the money. You couldn't go wrong. You are buying from somebody who has done so many developments, somebody who has done their homework. The bank could see it. The property was about completed. So the bank gave me the money. I'm not talking of small money. Like I said today, I'm talking to you as friends. That was a big investment. There were 15 properties there, 15 houses. We bought 13 or 15 in Ikoyi. Try to calculate how much money we're talking. We are talking of billions. That's what the man called me on phone. Said there was a court judgment. I said, court judgment. What is the judgment about? He said somebody took the company to court, the company we bought properties from, and said the land belongs to them, and won. And the court awarded them all the 15 property. I'm talking of Ikoyi. Now, the property, the land on which we bought, they had CO from federal government. The man that went to court was trying to claim that it was legal. I don't want to, so that's not you can. I don't want you to figure the companies. Basically, now, if the C of O for the land that they built was from federal government, who should go to court? Person that gave the C of O. And then the people, federal government said they have no interest in the case. You sold land to people, you give them C of O, people built on it. Now some people are contesting title, and you, the one that gave the C of O, say you have no interest in the case because money has exchanged hands. So I was owing the bank a lot of money. The good thing for me was that I had not sold one of them. I had been praying, God, bring buyer. There was no buyer. Because if I had sold those properties and they had moved in, I'd be in trouble. Now I was not begging them, please bring our money back, pay the bank. That went on for months. For those months, interests were mounting. Eventually, they said, okay, for our name's sake, we will refund your principal. What happened to my interest of 25% on billions of naira? That was another problem. What I'm telling you is that people can lose money in ways that don't make sense. I did my homework. And I didn't buy in Shangotedo. That was in Ikoyi. Property. Because I didn't want to put money in stock exchange. I wanted real estate. I tell you another story. We are talking as family. So, God took care of that one. With problem, I had to live with the place with a loss. I was lucky or blessed that the company was big enough to refund all the money. So the loss was more in the area of interest because the bank does, the bank will tell you, at least you brought the money back, you pay interest. Another one, property, real estate. So another one, did my analysis, looked good. Went to the bank again, borrowed money, a lot of money. This time, 12 properties. We are blessed. We're doing a lot of big business. Because we had, over the years, built up integrity. So most of the money I needed, the bank would give me. We bought this one. We were waiting to sell it also. And then we woke up one day, Lagos State has gone there and closed the place, the site. What has Lagos State got to do with this one? Say people don't know anything. Say you bought federal government property. Federal government in Lagos State. How can federal government own property in Lagos State? Say federal government if federal government wants to leave Lagos, let them leave. But the land that they used to build the property before came from us. So if they want to go, they can go. But the property that they have built in Lagos, they must give it to us. Federal government said, no, that doesn't make any sense. So they went to court. When Lagos State knew that they were not going to win the case, they came up with another thing. They will wait for you. After you have finished from federal government, they will tell you anything you want to do, even if it's just to change the gate. They will say approval has to come from Lagos State. You must pay what they call regularization fee. People who are in property here understand what I'm talking about. To regularize with Lagos State, 1,000 square meters of land in Ikoyi was 20,000 naira per square meter. You pay 20 million. In some areas of Banana Island, you pay 15 million naira. When they finished, the fee for that property was close to 100 million naira. We began to battle again. When you finish doing that, you want to remodel, you will go again for another approval. You will pay money again. You know, you don't go and come out of ministry as if it's a one-day thing. That property was delayed for close to 2 years. We had to pay interest. By the time they finished, the market had collapsed. Another problem started. This is what? Real estate. Then we fought with the bank. I'm talking to you as now these are behind me so I can talk to you. Because like I said, you will be wondering, why have I called you here to tell you that at these times, God must speak to you? That's why I'm telling you this. To let you know understand business. I have done big business. So what I'm telling you is a summary of what I've experienced. You know, we began to fight again. Because with the bank and everything, you know, that one took a long time. The bank said, what are you going to do now? We do this one. Take you to where you're going to borrow money. Long time. I went to my friends. I flew around. You people didn't know this. And I was a pastor. I kept on preaching. But I was battling these problems. So when I come and I encourage you, you don't know what people are going through. What I'm telling you is not something of 7 years ago. This other one I'm telling you is something of 2-3 years ago. You know, I went to my friends in Cairo. Say, we'll give you money. We'll lend you dollars. I say, very good. God has opened the door for me. If I take dollars, my interest will go down from 26% to 8%. My friends in Cairo said, just tell your bank, let them hold security in Nigeria. We'll give you the dollars. You can pay them off, then you can pay off. At that time, I had tenants, multinationals, who were there. They were paying rent in dollars. So the thing looks straightforward. My bank said, no, we won't take the money. What's your problem? Somebody wants to help me to pay you off. They said, no, we don't want dollars. Anything can happen. I said, what has happened to dollars? In the last 4 years, the rates were stable. They said, no, we won't take the money. We went for close to 6 months. When they won't take the money, said, let us leave it. So one day, I called my friend. We had been praying about it. Different problems I didn't want to talk about. So what should we do? Let us agree with the bank. What is the value of these properties? Let us sell them off and be out of debt. Let us clear our head. So we told the bank, let us value this thing. Take your money. They said, okay, fine. Have you done your valuation? I said, I've done my valuation. Out of the 12, how many should you take? How many should we take? I said, well, we will take 3. You can take 9. They said, no, they have done their own valuation. They will take the 12 and I will pay them money. Say they will take everything. But you are still owing us money. Say people are wicked people. We said, no, they're not wicked. That's the best they can do. Okay. We went back again. We prayed. And then we got people to talk to them. No. Say, okay, fine. Finally, we will take 11 and give you 1. My lawyer is a son. A son. We're paying a son. The lawyer disagreed. Said, Pastor, don't pay me any more money. I will take up this case personally on your behalf. When we finish, we can talk fees. But we have prayed. God said, settle them and move on. So lawyer said, no, I won't agree. Because if people hear about this case, they will say, I've misadvised you. So you will do me a letter saying you are acting contrary to legal advice. So I have to write to my lawyer saying I agree I'm acting contrary to legal advice. I said, let them take it. Because we will not carry anything away from this world. So the bank took 11 and gave us 1 out of 12 after all the trouble. Give us the 1 that remains. They said, no, you are owing rent. And we have calculated the rent. The rent, when you calculate the rent in dollars, is close to the 1 that remains. I said, this is what the lawyer said, though. Eventually, it took another 2 years to solve that problem. It took 2 years to solve that problem. You know how God solved that problem? We kept on praying and fasting. I'm telling you now because if I had told you this 1, 2, 3 years ago, some of you will go and look for money and give pastor. So pastor can talk when he has solved problem. Because you will not understand. You think he's begging you for money. You know, we kept on praying. So one day, God sent somebody to us. He said that it's like, I've heard your prayer. Say, I will move on your behalf. One day I was in my car when I heard the news. Government woke up one morning and fired all of them in that bank. The directors and the management. That's how the problem was solved. When the new people came in, they said, this is not fair. What do you want us to do? I said, don't do anything. Just give me my 1 and let me go. You know something, why I'm telling you this? You know, I'm talking to you as brothers because some of you don't understand. You know, you think pastors don't understand. I do a lot of big business. I don't understand what I'm talking about. We settled and we moved on. Few months later, government made me MD of Bank of Industry. If I had not taken care of that problem, I would not be where I am today. Because you cannot own another bank and be MD of another bank. So I walked away, not knowing what was going to happen. I walked away from my name and my integrity. I said, keep it. And another thing I'm going to tell you about business, because I'm talking to you as a senior brother and some of you as friends. Integrity has a value. Yes, sir. Integrity has what? Has value. You know, as I begin to close, about 24 years ago, I was doing business too. I've done a lot of business. God has been good. And the market was bad. People that come to TOD, you must have heard this story before. I used to work at Industrial Bank. I was in charge of trade finance. So I decided to go into business. So I asked my wife. I said to her, I want to open bank account. Which bank do you like? Said bank. At that time, banks were just springing up. He said, I like the name Zenith. Zenith. I said, who do you know in Zenith? He said, I don't know. I just like the name Zenith. I said, okay, I will open an account in Zenith. That was about 24 years ago. I remember there was a young man who used to work with me at that bank who had left us to join Zenith. So I went to him. Say, oh, guy, you are here. You know, so I opened an account with Zenith. After a few months, I went to him. I said, we wanted to take a loan. He said, how much? I said, 2.5 million naira. 2.5 million naira 24 years ago was a lot of money. He said, we cannot give you 2.5 million, no. He said, you know Jim. My guy is very shrewd. You'll be lucky to get 1.5. So they took the matter to the credit committee. They spoke about it. Jim was there listening. When they finished, he said, I like that boy. He calls me boy. You know, he's our senior. He said, I like that boy. He said, let him have the 2.5. So they approved 2.5 million naira for me. About 6 months later, I went back to the same guy. I said, we want to increase it to 5 million. He laughed. 5 million. You know, when did you join this team? They went again to credit committee. Jim said, I like that boy. They made it 5 million naira. About a year down the road, I went back again. I said that they should increase it. He said, I said 7.5 million. He went back to the credit committee. Jim said if it's Kayode, give him. So my line of credit in Zenith Bank about 24 years ago was 7.5 million naira. 7.5 million naira 24 years ago was a lot of money. So we were doing business, we were trading. And then there was crisis in the industry. I ran a finance house at that time. And usually, people will give checks post-dated. So when the other finance house had problems, and my own checks will go to Zenith, Zenith will pay it because I had a large line of credit. So when the thing settled, I was owing Zenith Bank 7.5 million. That was now when Jim got worried because he was not seeing turnover again. He now called the guy. He said, your guy is not paying our money again. No. He said, go and bring our money. So the young man came to me. He said, oh, God, every time this thing comes up, they say you are not paying money and everything. I said, there's crisis. He said, please find a way to help us. I said, don't worry, I will help you. I kept on thinking about it. I said to myself, this young man didn't know me from anywhere. I was his senior. He just liked me. His boss, Jim, didn't know me from anywhere. He just took a liking to me. And at the time that money had value, they gave me 7.5. This guy's career is about to be destroyed. So I looked, what do I have? At that time, VGC was just starting. At that time, they were selling houses at VGC for 2 million naira. In fact, 1.99 million naira. You buy the house, they will give you mobile phone. Mobile phone, then you carry it like radio. So we had just bought a house in VGC. And you will buy, they will build for you. You will pay. It will take about 12, 13 months or 15 months for them to finish it. At that time, our house in VGC was just being completed. And the value has gone up. So I said, I will surprise this man one day. So one day I called my lawyer. I said, prepare a document to transfer property to Zenith. He said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to settle this guy. So we prepared documents. So one day I just walked into Zenith. I said, I've come to see you. I said, I want to settle your bank. He said, how? I said, I'm transferring my property. You can sell it. Give me the, at that time, it has become a hot cake. The value has gone to about 9 million naira. So they said, this guy can't be serious. So are the documents genuine and everything? Documents were genuine. Jim said, so he came to pay us. I said, take your money. Give me change. I paid Zenith off that day. And I took change of 1.something million and I left the bank. It took us 8 years to buy the second house to build the one that we are living now. So we remained as tenants for another 8 years by taking that step. But do you know something? The young man I bailed out at that time is now the current central bank governor. He's the current governor. He's now my boss. Because he's the boss of all the bank MDs. I remembered when I resumed, the acting MD said, look, I want to take you to central bank to introduce you to the governor. I didn't say anything. So we went. So he was busy. So when he finished, he said, I would like you to meet our new MD, Mr. Kayode Pitan. He just looked at him and jumped at me. Between the two of us, there's a 25-year relationship. Integrity pays. It's a currency many of you don't understand. If I want something from central bank today, the man doesn't have to think about my integrity. Because when I was in a position to do otherwise, I didn't do so. So I don't have that problem with him. As I begin to close also, now I'm talking to you because when I tell you that if God does not help you, because if I didn't tell you some of this, you will think I don't understand business. Say it's not his fault. Say, pastor, they come to church and sit down here. And they go on the pulpit and they profess to us. We that are in the market. You that are in the market. You that are in the market. So I tried all of these things. Stock market, real estate, and not real estate in the village. in Ikoyi, in Banana Island, in Parkview. And I'm telling you, in all of those areas, there are problems. People are losing money nowadays in strange ways. And through it all, I kept on praying and fasting. So one day, I was in church here. I was in my office. I was praying and fasting. Well, I was just praying in my office. My telephone rang. I didn't pick it. I finished my prayers. So when I finished the prayers, I checked my phone. It was a caller from Canada. A person I had known for years who had not relocated. Say, Pastor, I hope I'm not, disturbing. I said, no, I was just praying. How are you? And he said, Pastor, something came up in Nigeria. There's a business, and they wanted somebody that could join them to guarantee, a particular project, And the only person I could think of was you. I don't know whether you'll be interested, Pastor, but I just wanted to mention it. I said, okay, fine. Let me know what they want. To cut a long story short, it was an oil and gas transaction, a lot of money, but integrity was required. That was why she called me. I didn't have to put money down, but we took a risk. If the thing had gone wrong, I would have to be liable for a lot of money. But the thing didn't go wrong. Until today, since I've been doing business for close to 30 years, that has been my most profitable investment. And my investment in it, in terms of naira and kobo, was close to zero. And I was not calculating anything. I was not thinking of anything. I was just praying. The person that called me was not even in Nigeria. He was in Canada. And God gave me a business I didn't work for. Am I talking to somebody this morning? The prosperity of Isaac was not due to his smartness. Otherwise, he would have been like the others. The blessing of God over your life at these times that we are at cannot be due to your intellect, because the people who are smart are failing. It's due to the word that you have, your faithfulness in this. Now let me tell you this. Some of the things I told you, for about 7 years, I went through those things. None of you, this is the first time many of you in this church are hearing about it after I've solved the problem. And believe me, I never stopped giving in this church. When it comes to giving in this church, my family is one of the highest. I kept on giving. I kept on praying. I kept on fasting. In spite of all the crises and all the problems around me. And then when it pleased God, He took care of my own problem. So I'm not telling you to do what I have not done. And I'm not teaching you what I have not practiced. Integrity has a value. Some of you know why you're not prospering? There's no integrity. Today, by God's grace, I can borrow billions in Nigeria on my name. But it cost me something. Some of that cost, I paid it 25 years ago. Some of it 30 years ago. Some of it, I'm still paying it. And people that will do those kind of things for don't forget. When you need their help, they put in the word for you in the right places too. So you say, what does it cost, Pastor? A lot. That business that was a telephone call. The person that called had known the pastor over the years and what pastor can do. So if they are looking for somebody of integrity, she says, I can swear on you. But that did not come in one day. That came 25 years ago when I was in a position to take some decisions, and I took them. Some things are hard in business. As a Christian businessman in Nigeria, it's hard to make money because there are things you cannot do that they can do. Oh, I can't tell you some of the things that happened in that little fight with the bank. Another one, on a joking note. This bank and ourselves, my company, we fought. So we agreed that, okay, fine, this is what we are going to do to sort out the problem, And we're supposed to file terms of settlement. So one day I went to court. And then My lawyer was joking. I was in court. Say, meet my client is Pastor so and so. And the person in the court laughed. So what is Pastor doing in court? So we joked and went away. That little incident also was God orchestrated. Unknown to me, the people that I thought were gentlemen were not gentlemen. They were planning to go and get judgment behind us. So one day they had spoken to the judge. They fixed a date. They didn't tell us. But this young guy remembered that there was one day one pastor came to church and he laughed at him. And the case was coming up. He didn't see us in court. So he called my lawyer. He said, why are you not in court today? My lawyer said, court for what? Said, you have a case. Said, which case do we have in court? Better run down here very quickly. That was how God saved us. They were going to get judgment behind us. That little joke, that guy didn't forget. Said, Pastor is not here today. He called my lawyer. There are many ways God helps the righteous. There are many ways God fights for his own people. You know why I'm telling you this? Because you think that we as pastors don't go through what you go through. You think because we pray and we fast, we are not like ordinary men. We are flesh. We are blood. So if I don't tell you this, I'm not helping you. But I can only tell you this after I have solved the problem. Because if I told you 1, 2, 3 years ago, you would misinterpret it. Then you come together, a few of you, say, let us go and bail out pastor. Pastor doesn't need bailout. Pastor is okay. Bible says, with the comfort that you have been comforted, you should do what? Comfort others. Comfort others. That's how you survive in difficult times. That's how you survive in tough times. You need the word. I'm like you. I've tried stock. I've tried property. I've tried other investments. I've done cocoa business. I've done cashew business. I've done paper business. Different kinds of businesses. Because in Nigeria, honokanwaja.com. Am I communicating? That's why I wanted to be here. That's why I wanted to talk to you. That God is good. Many are the afflictions of the righteous. But our good God delivered him from all of them. Not one of his bones shall be broken. Shall be broken. We are going to make it. But don't leave God. Don't stop praying. Don't stop fasting. Don't cut corners. If you have your integrity and you have God, you have everything. That's the currency that you need. I see Christians trying to cut corners. You can't be like them. I know all the people that are trying to frustrate us, many of them, 90% of them, they need my help today. They are calling me, asking for assistance. People that will not pick up your telephone calls 6 months ago are begging people that know you, asking for appointments. When the Lord turned around the captivity of Zion, we were like them. I dream. Then said they among the hidden that their Lord has been good to them. Look, let me tell you, you can lose property. You can make it back. Once you lose your integrity, you are finished. You are finished. You are finished. You are finished. Even some of the things that I did that God helped me, it was because they said it was you. The people that gave me back the money, when they paid the money back for the property that we had to get the money from them. And by the way, they are still in court. The case is still in court. It's not yet over. I've gotten my own money, but they are still in court. Because they now had to fight back to say, how can you give judgment? They had to get federal government to compel their lawyers to join the case. They are still in court. But some of the people, when I approached them, they said, let us look for a way to pay this man back. Don't lose that. Some of us might not say a lot of things, but we might know a little bit more than you think we know. So I just gave you an idea to some of the things I do. Because otherwise, this message for many of you this morning will not make any sense. Say, what do you expect? We left our homes early in the morning and came to church. And all pastor has to say is that God help Isaac. We knew that. But I want you to have it as a rhema. For me, it was a rhema that I have tried on my own. I have long CVs. I consult for people. This is the second bank I'm the MD of. And I'm telling you that what I have today, if not for the grace and mercy of God, if not for the grace and mercy of God. Let me close finally. Are things going to get easier? No. Luke 21, verse 25 and 26 says, and there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth, distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Brethren, it's going to get worse. We are approaching the end times. God says perplexity of nations. It goes beyond individuals. Now we have countries who are in debt. We have countries that things don't make sense. You just see water, it will clear up a whole place. You see hurricanes. Things happening, Brexit, Trump. What is going to be next? Nobody knows. That is why, more than ever before, you must be closer to God. More than ever before, you must be closer to God. Peter was a failed fisherman before God entered his boat. And then God helped him, which is why you must be close to God. I will tell you one more little story, then I will close. Today is the 14th of October. 10th of this month was the 7th year of my coming to Tabernacle of David. 10th of this month was my 7th year in TOD. 7 years ago, my story was different. I came here in obedience because God said go. And I look back 7 years with thanksgiving. Look back at my spiritual life. Look back at my business life. Look back at my family. Look back at all the problems that you were not even aware of 7 years ago that would not even want me to come to TOD. And God has taken care of them one by one. He solved them all. Because of obedience and trust. It is 7 years of God's grace and faithfulness. 7 years of His grace and faithfulness. 7 years ago, they said, Pastor Kayode has left to redeem. I said, I'm not going to leave redeem. People that know me, that's not how you leave a place. Because they say, if you go to Ikoyi, you see the church, they must have spent a lot of money. I said, you don't understand me. Money for us is a tool. Anything we give, there is nothing I give to God that God has not repaid. Even the ones that we've given to TOD, He has repaid it now. It's an investment. If there is one thing I want you to take and learn from me, trust God. Serve God. Try to be good to your fellow human beings. Be transparent. Do God's work as if you are doing your own work. And let him be the one to reward you. God is faithful. God is faithful. God is faithful. Very faithful. Finally. Revelation chapter 3 verse 20. Said, behold, I stand at the door and I knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him and will sup with him and he with me. There are men here I want to pray with this morning. Maybe what you are going through, I have gone through it. Maybe not. You are not here by accident. God wants to help you. That's why you are here. Believe me, if you toe this path of working with God, ultimately you will win. You can't lose out. You can't lose out. All eyes closed.
Welcome to TOD, the House of Favor.